Good evening, comrades. It is me, your Soviet brother, the Balkan Hero. We are now going to say propaganda material for the glory of the motherland because we have our favorite gaming company, Ubisoft, that is doing regime's work and issuing a demand: remove all numbers that show concurrent player for their games. This is good by Soviet standards. Yeah, I'm not doing that accent the whole time. Not that I can't, but no, please, no. I try to escape that my whole life. Good evening, ladies and gents. My name is Helzo and I'm DiscussThing, and today I am very happy that actually my plans yesterday changed and I didn't make this video then because it is so much more spicy than anyone could have predicted. So yesterday I was about to make sales and player number updates on Ubisoft on Steam for Star Wars The Outlaws, and I didn't see the news that were actually being developed and being written at that time about what Ubisoft is allegedly trying to do with Steam. And the fact that I'm seeing this and I'm like, this is admittedly a rumor, but it comes from what is regarded as a reputable source with a potential insiders, and it's reported by one of the channels that I follow a lot and I have great respect, and I know that they won't just post something like this without any backing for their claim and any like security that what they're saying is at least very probable to be true. And I'm talking of course about Smash JT, which I just want to put that out there because I've been mentioning him a lot on this channel and I've been reacting to a lot of his posts. He's basically the channel that is one of the driving forces that got me back into YouTube, and it's just a thank you. Yeah, got the light a little bit down. So let me just absolutely go over to Smash JT's website here and show you the article. Let's read. Ubisoft now pressuring Steam to remove player count tracking after historic Star Wars flop. Now, before I continue with the article and reading it and just saying you what I think about, let's look at what my favorite thing currently is, and this is the steamdb charts that shows the concurrent player and the highest number peak for Star Wars Outlaws. Now, just a small reminder, Star Wars Outlaws reportedly sold, up until the game was released on Steam, around 1 million copies. So this is about 1 million copies for 60 to 70 and sometimes even $130 price tag. So that's about the amount that the game was sold. So 1 million, you can safely say that if we're being generous, around $70 million in revenue. Okay, so what we have here is the highest peak for the 2 days. Just a reminder, this game was released last Thursday, and today we're Tuesday, and we have 2,492 all-time peak. This is just 2,492 players. We currently have 1,432 and the 24-hour peak is 1,876, which these numbers are absolutely abysmal because a game like Star Wars Outlaws, developed by Massive Entertainment, which is a Ubisoft studio of course, would not go for under at least $180 million in production cost. And let me remind you, this is just the production cost. Let's go a little bit down, and my favorite tab is owner estimations. Now, owner estimations are tricky in the first several days, especially with Gamealytics, who I do consider the go-to because they're usually about at least 80-85% correct no times. And usually what we will see here is that the game released recently and that owner estimations might not be correct. This is a message that is usually over here in the first 2 days. The message is now gone, so we should expect a lot more accuracy. And let's go with the high end. I always like going on the high end because it just completely shows what happens when a game flops. Now we have at the highest 45,000.4 copies sold, and we have 2.1 million in revenue. These are numbers that are not even good for something of an indie game, and this is at a $70 actually price range. So what we're seeing here is that it's not doing really good. It's really not. And when you consider all of the other things that I just said, you see how Ubisoft might want to go all Soviet on Steam. Now, the game was highly criticized by gamers for being a buggy mess, for having an inconsistent CGI and animations, on having a lot of game issues in and of itself, of having crashes, of everything possible you can imagine in a game. And I know the mantra that Ubisoft hasn't released a finished game ever, and this is just fueling that statement even more. But when you're talking about a Star Wars franchise, to have such abysmal numbers, this is just telling of how bad the industry as a whole is with the AAA games and with everything. There used to be a time that anything that had a Star Wars name, from snack bars to games and to movies, would sell like hot bread, because Star Wars for decades was the absolute peak of fandom, and it still is in many cases. But we're now talking about old style Star Wars, the original trilogy and somewhat of the prequels, maybe some of the animation and the old games. That's what the fandom is currently, because with the new movies, with the new TV series, it's been such a ups and downs, and mostly downs, that you don't have any consistent new fandom. You saw what happened with The Acolyte. If you have watched my videos from several months ago, you know that I basically gave up on Star Wars, and I gave up on watching The Acolyte because I just didn't want to endure that level of absolute idiocy that is being presented to me with the name Star Wars. I grew up on Star Wars, I grew up on Star Trek, I grew up on fantasy and sci-fi, and I know the level of maturity in and of themselves as the shows that they can present to us, and mix in real life stuff with the fantasy and sci-fi aspects, that you just feel so complete, because it, at the same time, it touches your emotions in the real world, and it provides you the good escapism that we all need to just see something absolutely visually groundbreaking, see good characters, see complex narratives, and just enjoy yourself and just get immersed in the world. And that is all but gone now. And Star Wars Outlaws is the latest issue of it. And from what we are seeing is that gamers have absolutely had enough. But let's jump to the article, because this is the main topic of this video, and I am simply absolutely amazed at what lengths a company can go to. So we already read the title, and we have a subtitle: even less transparency from the video game industry. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. Okay, maybe not that shocked. Yes, we're all the same. Like, the lengths that these companies can go to just preserve any form of false dignity is just amazing. A wild new rumored leak from an insider to the fandom post exposes Ubisoft's dissatisfaction with Valve and Steam for displaying concurrent player counts on its platform. Currently, the transparency is readily available to all true streams tracking tools for third-party sites like steamdb, and we see the screenshot with the numbers that we have seen a few minutes ago. The problem with it? Well, it publicly embarrasses the performance of many of Ubisoft's titles like Star Wars Outlaws to gamers, journalists, and investors. And this is the important part. It embarrasses the company in front of investors. We have talked about this many times. The companies have shifted now to catering to investors and to just presenting what someone who gives money to the company for a project to push, whether or not this is going to be extreme DEI policy or just shallow political drama that has no merit, or just boring games and just the vision of some rich kid who doesn't have any idea what to do with the story and has no talent. The companies have decided that this is more important than catering to the actual people that pay to play those games, and those are gamers. And it worked for a little while. Gamers were still taking the bait and buying these games with decreasing numbers, but it was going on for some time before something of a revolution has happened, and we started to just wake up and vote with our wallets, refuse to pay any money to these companies with their absolutely abysmal games and abysmal TV shows, horrible movies. And it has reached so far that what we're reading now is most probably at least being discussed by Ubisoft, or even more likely actually happened, much to the company's dismay. Can't have that now, can we? According to the insider, Ubisoft is now actively seeking to pressure Steam to discontinue its player count tracking. Well, of course, Ubisoft and other companies want to pressure Steam to stop the tracker from giving out info they want to keep to themselves. There is an old Soviet era saying in my country. It basically translates no person, no problem. Meaning that if there is no one to report your crime, or you have paid enough people to keep silent of your crimes, then technically a crime or oppression or whatever hasn't happened. It's the same thing can be translated here. No numbers, no harm. If players and people don't see the numbers, then they don't know if the game is doing good or doing bad. And from then, I can predict that if that somehow happens and they manage to block out numbers in Steam, the next thing will be user reviews and user comments, and you won't know what people think about the game, and they'll have to go to third parties like Twitter, like YouTube, like Facebook to just read about the game. And that in and of itself will probably create a few websites that are dedicated only to that, but it won't be on the platform, and it still won't have that much engagement because you don't see it from the source. And when you don't see it from the source, especially with Steam comments that display how many hours someone who commented has in that game that he's commenting on, they can easily claim, oh, those are just trolls, those are just bots, and that will probably keep the investors a bit more calm. The insider explained that the concern stems from Ubisoft's desire to control how its game's performance metrics are presented, especially to investors. The fact that they have gone out and said even behind closed doors is just amazing. They want to be able to present findings to investors so they can make it sound good. Of course, if you remember, they did the same thing with Assassin's Creed Shadows with that leaked audio from the investors call. They absolutely refused to disclose pre-sales information and just tried to wing it so that the investors won't back down, because if they had told the pre-sale number, it would have been the end for Assassin's Creed Shadows. The insider alleged that their efforts here are tied to the underwhelming, to be kind, that's good, sales figures, with Star Wars Outlaws reportedly failing to reach 2 million copies sold, a massive shortfall given Ubisoft's own admission that AAA games require significant sales to recoup costs, upwards of 4 or 5 million to even break even. And I have talked about this before, that when you have a production cost, and especially for games like Ubisoft, it's almost never no less than 150 million, but that is just the production cost. Then you have marketing costs, then you have other different costs, and you can go even double the amount of production cost to be the whole money that they have paid and they have invested in the project. So when you have, let's say, 1 million sales for even $70, then if you don't count any refunds, any returns, anything else, and just count it as pure money, even without actually Steam and other platforms taking a cut, then you can still see that it's much lower than what they have predicted, and it's a losing ventures in the millions, and that's not something that investors want to see, and they especially don't want to see it when it happens 2 or 3 times, like it's most probably going to happen with Assassin's Creed Shadows, like it's currently happening with Dragon Age the Veilguard, which is a massive flop, and with other games this year that have just burned money like crazy without any returns whatsoever. He here explains that during a recent interview, Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed executive producer Max Cote revealed that the break-even point for many AAA titles falls between 8 to 12 million units. Imagine 10 million units for $60. This is $600 million of profit to break even. Imagine how expensive they're making these games. If I remember correctly, the title Skull and Bones was estimated at around 850 million, which it's absolutely crazy to have such amounts for these games, especially when this year alone you had 2 games, Black Myth Wukong and Stellar Blade, with budgets of around between 50 and 80 million, which is 10 times lower, that absolutely broke the charts, especially Black Myth Wukong, which sold around 30 million copies or something, or 20, which is amazing. He continues, when you add this context to the situation, it paints quite the dire picture for Star Wars Outlaws. If Ubisoft's sales figure guesstimate requirements are accurate, the game's inability to cross even the 2 million mark is posed a significant financial loss for the company. Exactly, making Steam's visibility into concurrent player counts an uncomfortable reminder of this struggle. Exactly, and it's one of the things that we use to expose these companies and to just tell the companies how bad it is, and for all the world to see, so that investors can be a little bit smarter and invest in something that will actually make money, because that's what they care about. Maybe the best way to fix this shortfall is to remove DEI and make better games. Crazy, I know, but just a thought. And I absolutely agree. If you remove the unnecessary elements from gaming and make them an entertainment for actual gamers instead of a dream come true for some activists who insert their own trans stories or gay stories or just their own mental struggles into a game without any actual content behind it, you have a lot better games. Now, don't get me wrong, by the way, there are a lot of games that do have inserts. They have gay representation, they even have trans representation, they have these things. However, the trick is to do it smartly, to do it as a part of the gaming experience, not to take away from it, not to change the focus of the mission that is in the game. You can have these things for sure. Removing DEI is to remove the agenda portion of it, to remove the narrative pushings, the woke inserts, the absolute changing of the focus into just being an activism piece or a propaganda piece with some gaming elements inserted into them, as I have been saying about Dragon Age Veilguard for maybe the last 5 or 6 videos already. You can insert, and these things can work. I have a video about that DEI in entertainment is absolutely possible, and we do see it, but it's so scarce that nobody wants to learn from those experiences, and they just want to push their narrative in order to try and shift your brain thoughts and make you believe that this is good. Well, no, it's not good, because when you shove something oppressive, something that you want to be preached and to become the new norm to people who don't think like you, and to just demonize them for not thinking about you, is basically you going Soviet. That's what was happening before 1990s in the Soviet Union. That was the absolute reality of the situation. That's what people even in the country that I live in were thought and were made to believe. You had a single propaganda that was pushed all around, and there are countries to this day that they're doing that all around the world. And instead of allowing people to have disagreements and to have multiple viewpoints, to have choice in the matter, they're just trying to shove what they believe and they think the truth should be down everyone's throats, and just try to cancel everyone who doesn't agree with them so they don't have any opposition. No person, no problem. That's it. That's what they're trying to do. But there is a person and there is a problem for you, because you are actually the problem. We're the ones who are just trying to have what we have had in the past and what we want to have in the future. Entertainment. That's what we're fighting for, and the fight is just. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoy my content, press the subscribe and join button to become a member and enjoy the awesome perks that I have prepared for you. Enter the guild and become one of the 3 tiers I have presented. If you also want to support my other ventures, click one of the links down in the description below. Visit my Patreon webpage, where me and my wife are fighting to protect and help homeless animals and animals in shelters. And if you want to see more, just stick around until the next video. Thank you very much. My name is Helzo. This was DiscussThing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers and stay fresh.